Walk into any high-acuity emergency room in the country on a Friday night, bypass the crowded waiting area, and look directly into the acute trauma bays. You will see something that should absolutely terrify you. You will see dozens of older adults lying on stretchers with shattered hips, traumatic brain injuries, and fractured pelvises. If you ask their grieving, panicked families what happened, they will all tell you the exact same thing. They were perfectly healthy yesterday. They just took a bad step. It was a freak accident. But I am telling you, as a physician who has stood in those trauma bays and read those charts, that is a biological lie. That fall did not start yesterday. That catastrophic fracture started 5, maybe even 10 years ago, in the quiet comfort of their own living room, when they began committing the single most devastating mistake an aging adult can possibly make. I am Dr. Andrew Morgan. For over 3 decades, I have specialized in geriatric medicine, neurobiology, and the exact science of human longevity. I have dedicated my entire life to understanding why some individuals thrive into their 90s with fierce, untouchable independence, while others suffer a sudden, terrifying collapse of their physical and mental autonomy. The difference between those two groups is not luck, and it is certainly not genetics. The difference comes down to the recognition of a silent, lethal trap. The greatest mistake seniors make, the one that fills those emergency rooms every single night, is the profound delusion of reactive aging. It is the deeply held, utterly false belief that simply because you feel fine today, your biology is stable, and therefore, you do not need to intervene until a symptom actually appears. You are waiting for the disease to announce itself before you fight back. And in the realm of geriatric medicine, I must tell you with brutal honesty, by the time the symptom appears, the war is already 90% lost. Before we expose the invisible physiological traps that this mistake sets inside your body, I want you to drop your age in the comments below and tell me, what is the one specific health intervention or daily habit you desperately wish you had started 10 years ago? I read every single comment on this channel. Your stories, your regrets, and your triumphs are the lifeblood of this community, and they shape the exact medical reality I bring to you. Take a moment, leave your honest comment, and let us break this cycle of waiting together. The core of this massive, overarching mistake manifests first at the cellular level, in a phenomenon geriatricians call the "I feel fine" fallacy. To understand why feeling fine is so incredibly dangerous, you must understand the concept of functional reserve. When you are 30 years old, your organs, your muscles, and your brain possess a massive amount of functional reserve. Think of it as a biological savings account. If you get a severe virus, if you sleep poorly for a week, or if you eat a terrible diet, your body simply withdraws from the savings account. You bounce back in days. But as you cross the threshold of 65, and certainly by 75, this functional reserve undergoes a precipitous, silent decline. Your mitochondria, the microscopic power plants inside your cells that generate adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, begin to lose their oxidative capacity. They produce less energy and emit more toxic exhaust fumes known as reactive oxygen species. These toxic byproducts quietly damage your cellular DNA and fuel a slow-burning, systemic fire called inflammaging. But here is the terrifying part. Your body is a master of compensation. It will shift the load, mask the inflammation, and hide the mitochondrial decay so effectively that you will wake up, drink your coffee, and tell yourself you feel perfectly healthy. You are living on biological credit, totally unaware that your savings account is completely empty. Then, one day, you contract a minor urinary tract infection, or you experience a single night of severe dehydration. Because you have zero functional reserve left, your body cannot absorb the shock. You step off the decompensation cliff. You experience sudden delirium, a massive drop in blood pressure, and a catastrophic fall. You waited until you felt sick to take action, not realizing that feeling fine was just a temporary biological illusion. I witnessed this exact tragedy with my patient, Robert. Robert was 72 years old, a retired accountant who prided himself on never going to the doctor because, as he loved to say, he felt like $1,000,000. He did not exercise, he ate a highly processed diet, and he took no proactive supplements, relying entirely on the fact that he had no diagnosed diseases. One winter, he caught a standard, run-of-the-mill seasonal rhinovirus, a common cold. Because his functional reserve was secretly bankrupt, his immune system demanded an extreme amount of energy to fight the virus, triggering a hypercatabolic state. His body aggressively broke down his own muscle tissue to harvest amino acids. Within just 7 days of bed rest, he lost so much structural integrity in his quadriceps that when he finally tried to walk to his bathroom, his legs buckled. He shattered his femur and never returned to his two-story home. He lost his independence because he confused the absence of disease with the presence of health. The defense against this illusion is to completely abandon reactive aging and adopt aggressive, proactive biological fortification. The synergy prescription for rebuilding your functional reserve is the immediate implementation of Zone 2 cardiovascular training paired with targeted mitochondrial support. Zone 2 training is a specific level of aerobic exertion where you are breathing heavily but can still hold a conversation. Think of a brisk, challenging uphill walk or cycling. You must engage in this for 45 minutes, 4 times a week. This specific intensity acts as a biological distress signal, forcing your body to initiate mitochondrial biogenesis, the actual creation of brand new, highly efficient cellular power plants. Pair this intense mechanical stimulus with a daily clinical dose of coenzyme Q10, CoQ10, and PQQ. These specific micronutrients serve as the raw, chemical ignition fluid your cells require to build these new mitochondria. You must actively manufacture a massive functional reserve today, so that when the inevitable biological shock arrives tomorrow, your body has the deep cellular savings required to keep you standing upright. As we peel back the layers of this devastating mistake of waiting, we must confront how it physically alters your interaction with your own environment. This manifests most clearly in the silent, voluntary surrender of the physical floor. Pay very close attention to your daily movements. If you drop a pen or a piece of mail on the floor, do you instantly calculate the easiest way to retrieve it without actually lowering your entire body? Do you use a grabber tool, or perhaps use your toes to lift the object to your hand? If you have subconsciously decided that sitting on the floor and getting back up is simply too much trouble or too hard on the knees, you are making a fatal biological compromise. You are waiting for your mobility to fail before you address it, completely ignoring the fact that the avoidance itself is what destroys the mobility. In geriatric neurobiology, the ability to transition from a standing position, down to the floor, and back up to a standing position without relying heavily on furniture is one of the single most profound predictors of all-cause mortality. When you deliberately stop getting down on the floor, your body initiates a rapid, ruthless process of neuromuscular pruning. Your brain realizes that it no longer needs to coordinate the complex, multi-joint flexion of your hips, knees, and ankles. Furthermore, because you are no longer forcing your body to push against extreme gravity from a dead stop, you bypass your fast-twitch muscle fibers. These are the powerful, explosive muscle fibers in your glutes and thighs that are absolutely critical for catching yourself during a stumble. By the time a senior realizes they are feeling frail, they have already lost up to 30% of these fast-twitch fibers simply because they outsourced their mobility to comfortable chairs and grabber tools. Helen, a 68-year-old grandmother, came to my clinic in tears. Her daughter had brought her young grandson over to visit, and the toddler immediately sat on the living room rug to play with his wooden blocks. Helen stood awkwardly over them, realizing with a sudden wave of panic that if she got down on the carpet to play with her grandson, she had absolutely no confidence she would be able to get back up. She had completely surrendered the physical floor to avoid temporary joint discomfort, and in doing so, she had locked herself out of a profound emotional connection with her own family. She thought she was protecting her knees, but she was actively amputating her independence. We had to forcefully reclaim that lost territory. The synergy prescription for reversing this specific decay is what I call the floor transition protocol. You must not wait until you are weak to start moving. You must move to prevent the weakness. Every single morning, place a thick, comfortable yoga mat next to a sturdy piece of furniture, like a heavy sofa. You must physically lower yourself onto the mat until you are seated flat on the floor. Sit there for 60 seconds, and then force yourself to stand back up. If you need to use the sofa for leverage at first, use it. But your ultimate goal is to progressively reduce your reliance on your hands until your legs are doing all the mechanical work. Pair this intense neuromuscular retraining with a heavy, daily dose of vitamin D3 combined with vitamin K2. Vitamin D3 is not just for bone density, it is a critical neurohormone that directly regulates the efficiency of your fast-twitch muscle fibers. If you wait until you fall to figure out how to get off the floor, you will not be getting up. You must practice your own rescue every single day. This philosophy of dangerous waiting also deeply infects your nutritional habits, manifesting in a physiological disaster I call the protein deferment. As the human body ages, the natural sensation of hunger diminishes. The stomach empties more slowly, and the hormonal signals that trigger appetite become blunted. Consequently, millions of seniors organically transition into eating tiny, highly convenient meals. A piece of toast and tea for breakfast, a small bowl of soup for lunch. They tell themselves, I am not moving as much, so I do not need to eat a heavy meal. I feel fine. This is the ultimate, catastrophic illusion of reactive aging. You are waiting to feel hungry to feed your muscles, totally ignoring the fact that your aging muscles are starving to death in plain sight. After the age of 65, your muscle tissue develops a profound condition called anabolic resistance. This means your muscles become incredibly stubborn and biochemically deaf to the signals that tell them to rebuild and repair. When you were 30, eating a simple 10 grams of protein would instantly trigger muscle protein synthesis. But at 70, your muscles require up to 50% more protein at a single sitting just to trigger that exact same survival mechanism. When you eat a light, carbohydrate-based breakfast because you feel fine, you plunge your body into a severe catabolic state. Your body requires fresh amino acids every single day to synthesize neurotransmitters, build immune cells, and repair internal organs. Because you did not feed it protein, the body initiates a survival protocol. It begins to literally cannibalize and digest your own skeletal muscle tissue to harvest the amino acids it desperately needs. You are silently digesting your own functional independence, one skipped protein meal at a time. Margaret, an 81-year-old retired teacher, suffered this exact silent digestion. She lived alone and ate like a bird, subsisting mostly on crackers, fruit, and broth. Over 2 years, she lost 12 pounds. She was thrilled, believing she was maintaining a youthful figure. But she had not lost fat. She had lost pure, structural muscle mass. She eventually lacked the physical grip strength to open a jar of pasta sauce and the leg strength to press the brake pedal in her car firmly enough to avoid a minor collision. She had waited until she was functionally disabled to realize she was malnourished. The synergy prescription for anabolic resistance is the aggressive, proactive protein front-loading strategy. You cannot wait for appetite. You must treat protein as a non-negotiable daily medication. Within 60 minutes of waking up, you must forcefully ingest at least 30 to 35 grams of highly bioavailable protein. This must be rich in leucine, the specific essential amino acid that acts as the molecular key to unlocking the mTOR pathway, commanding your body to build muscle. Think of eggs, high-quality Greek yogurt, or a clean whey protein isolate shake. Pair this massive morning protein dose with 15 minutes of targeted resistance band training. The mechanical tension from pulling the bands actively sensitizes the muscle tissue, forcing the cells to open up and aggressively absorb the amino acids circulating in your blood. You must feed the armor before the battle begins, because if you wait until you are weak to start eating for strength, the structural damage is already permanent. We must now confront how this ultimate mistake, the toxic strategy of waiting for decline before taking action, infiltrates the very center of your cognitive health. This manifests in a highly deceptive lifestyle choice I call the atrophy of routine. Seniors are notoriously protective of their daily schedules. You wake up at the exact same time, you drink from the exact same coffee mug, you walk the exact same route through your neighborhood, and you watch the exact same television programs every evening. This extreme predictability feels incredibly peaceful. It feels safe. It feels like you have finally earned the right to a stress-free existence. But neurologically speaking, this absolute lack of friction is a death sentence for your brain. The human brain is an energy-intensive organ that operates on a ruthless, unforgiving principle of use it or lose it. Specifically, the hippocampus, the master center for memory consolidation and spatial navigation, and the prefrontal cortex, the center for executive functioning and rapid problem-solving, require constant, unpredictable novelty to remain dense and deeply interconnected. When you force your brain to navigate a new environment, learn a highly frustrating new skill, or process a completely unfamiliar social dynamic, you trigger the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as high-grade miracle grow for your neurons. It forces the brain to sprout new dendrites and forge new synaptic connections. But when you live a life of perfect, frictionless routine, your brain realizes it no longer needs to rapidly process new information to keep you alive. Because the brain is always trying to conserve metabolic energy, it initiates a terrifying process called synaptic pruning. It literally begins to dissolve and break down the complex neural pathways that you are no longer using. Your brain physically shrinks. You do not notice it because your perfectly ordered routine requires almost zero cognitive effort to execute. You feel perfectly sharp because your environment demands absolutely nothing of you. You are masking your own cognitive decline with the illusion of a peaceful routine. I treated a brilliant 74-year-old former engineer named Arthur who fell directly into this trap. Arthur lived alone and possessed a daily routine so rigid you could set a watch by it. He felt entirely sharp and capable inside his home. However, his daughter convinced him to fly across the country to attend his grandson's week-long outdoor wedding. The moment Arthur stepped off the plane into an entirely unpredictable environment with erratic schedules, massive social friction, and unfamiliar spatial geography, his brain completely short-circuited. He developed severe acute confusion, forgot the names of his own family members, and experienced terrifying bouts of delirium. His daughter brought him to me, fearing rapid-onset Alzheimer's, but brain scans revealed no advanced plaques. Arthur's brain had simply pruned away its adaptive pathways due to years of perfect routine. When the environment suddenly demanded neuroplasticity, the biological infrastructure was simply gone. The synergy prescription to defend against the atrophy of routine is what I call manufactured cognitive friction. You must stop waiting for life to challenge you and start intentionally breaking your own patterns. You must violently disrupt your routine. Once a week, force yourself to navigate to a part of your city you have never visited, using only physical landmarks, not a GPS. Attempt to learn a complex, highly frustrating new language or a musical instrument that makes you feel entirely incompetent for the first month. That deep frustration you feel is the exact sensation of your brain forging new synaptic pathways. Pair this deliberate cognitive stress with a daily dose of high-quality lion's mane mushroom extract. Clinical research has robustly demonstrated that the active compounds in lion's mane, hericenones and erinacines, actively cross the blood-brain barrier and directly stimulate the synthesis of nerve growth factor, heavily amplifying the brain's ability to physically rewire itself during periods of extreme novelty. Finally, the most profound and lethal consequence of this waiting mentality occurs directly inside the doctor's office. It is the danger of medical passivity and the silent acceptance of polypharmacy. Millions of seniors sit on the examination table and passively accept every single prescription written for them, assuming that if the doctor ordered it, it must be safe forever. You start taking a blood pressure medication at 65, you add a statin at 68, a sleep aid at 70, and an anti-inflammatory at 72. You wait for the doctor to tell you when to stop, but that conversation never happens. As you age, your liver's metabolic efficiency drops, and your kidney's filtration rate plummets. A chemical dose that was perfectly safe and necessary when you were 65 becomes incredibly toxic as it accumulates in your 75-year-old bloodstream. When you passively wait for the medical system to manage your biology, you end up over-medicated, dizzy, chronically fatigued, and perfectly primed for a catastrophic fall. You must abandon the role of the passive patient and assume the role of the aggressive, demanding CEO of your own biochemistry. Your doctor is not your boss. Your doctor is a consultant that you have hired to advise you. The ultimate synergy tip to reclaim your biological authority is to demand a comprehensive deprescribing audit every single year. You must walk into your physician's office, lay every single pill bottle on the desk, and explicitly ask, given the natural decline in my renal and hepatic clearance, which of these medications is currently doing more harm than good? What is our precise exit strategy for this drug? Pair this medical aggression with a relentless dedication to outsourcing your physical risks at home. Build a village network of trusted individuals whom you can call to carry heavy boxes, climb ladders, or navigate icy driveways. Refusing to ask for help until you are already injured is the final, fatal symptom of the waiting disease. The illusion that you have time, simply because you feel fine today is the greatest lie you will ever tell yourself. Your biology does not care about your intentions. It only responds to your daily inputs. You must stop playing defense against aging. You must stop waiting for the fall, waiting for the diagnosis, and waiting for the decline. You must build your muscular armor. Force your brain into states of friction, command your medical care, and aggressively fortify your biological reserves right now, in this exact moment, while you still have the power to do it. If this unvarnished truth about the reality of aging brought you value today, I strongly urge you to subscribe to this channel and share this video with someone who is currently trapped in the illusion of feeling fine. We publish rigorous, evidence-based medical content every single week designed for adults who refuse to surrender their autonomy to the passage of time. Protect your reserves, challenge your environment, and never, ever wait for the disease to announce itself. Thank you for your time, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video.